holes in the floor. What are those?
Where?
Like walking through the real pretty tunnel.
Okay, yeah.
On the floor in there. Yeah, they weren't.
Okay, those were. I'm not sure. You'd have to point those out.
Okay.
I'm not sure what those were, to tell you the truth. You're talking about the triangles?
No. This was
Like this one?
brass. That was a little, I think about smaller than that, but
Yeah,
brass cap.
Okay.
And it wasn't like the screw kind where there's a plate underneath.
Okay,
It was,
I'd have to look at it, and there's all kinds of stuff around here that who knows what it means. Okay, folks, why don't you fill in here? Okay, come on down from all the way down there. Let me stand right here, folks. Okay, I'm going to talk at the group this way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me call your attention to the box down by my feet. This is an earthquake sensor. We have a number of these in the dam and on the property, and these are all monitored in our control room. Now, as I mentioned earlier, they built the dam to withstand an 8.6 earthquake. Now, as you know, there's an earthquake scale. It's called the Richter scale. It's a 10-point scale, so 8.6 is right up there at the top. However, 8.6 earthquake, very, very rare. Never had one of those here. Largest recorded earthquake here at Hoover Dam, 5.2, and that was way back in the 1950s. They tell me they inspected thoroughly, no damage. So I would suspect that we have to leave here in another 7 minutes. If we have an earthquake in the next 7 minutes, you are probably standing in the safest spot on Earth when it comes to earthquakes. Doesn't get any safer than 8.6, folks. So you can breathe easy on the earthquake then. Well, at least for 7 more minutes you can, okay? Now, questions. Anybody have questions? Okay. I mentioned a couple of, well, first of all, where you're standing right now is called Black Canyon. But this was not the first choice of where they wanted to build Hoover Dam. They actually wanted to build this dam about 20 miles upriver from here, a place called Boulder Canyon. Well, for a number of reasons, Boulder Canyon was unsuitable, so they simply packed up and brought the project here. And when the project moved from Boulder Canyon to this canyon, the name kind of moved with it. So people were referring to this dam or calling it the Boulder Canyon Dam or Boulder Dam. You ever hear it called Boulder Dam? That's why, because that's where they're originally going to build it. However, the dam's always been Hoover Dam, named after our 31st president, Herbert Hoover, but not officially so until that act of Congress in 1947. So why did they choose this canyon over that one? A couple of reasons. One of those was the height of the canyon walls. Turns out they could build a really tall dam here, as I mentioned earlier. Tallest dam in the world in 1935, 726 feet tall. Another reason was the hardness of the rock here. So what you were walking through in those tunnels was an igneous volcanic rock called andesite breccia. It's harder than granite, and they needed that for a reason, because the dam's actually wedged in the canyon. So what they did is they notched out the canyon on each side about 75 feet. They poured the dam into the notches, so what's holding the dam in place is not only its weight, the 6 million tons, but Lake Mead behind it, pushing it into those canyon walls. So these walls kind of support the dam. And you may have also picked up the fact that the river out there, the Colorado River, is the state line. So Hoover Dam sits between Nevada and the other half of the dam, whole different state, that's Arizona over there. However, this is a federal facility run by the Bureau of Reclamation, which is in the Interior Department. So it's a federal project, so the states have nothing to do with the running of the dam, just a coincidence that the dam sits on the state line. Now, there were a couple of other things that remarkable things about this dam. This project came in ahead of schedule and under budget. How often do we hear that today, right? Okay, the answer would be never, okay? Congress allocated $165 million to build this dam. They thought it would take 7 years. So they did it in 5 for $151 million, so $14 million under budget, 2 years ahead of schedule. And if you had to point to one person on the staff responsible for those two facts, it was the construction superintendent. His name was Frank Crow. Real interesting individual. He was actually known as the best dam builder in the world at the time. He worked for the Bureau of Reclamation, but the 6 companies who built this dam, private contractors, paid more, so they lured him away from the Bureau, and they hired him to ramrod this project. He brought, in fact, he was a real taskmaster. The workers had a nickname for him. His nickname among the workers was Hurry Up Crow. In other words, work faster, work harder, okay? And for his efforts, he got himself a $350,000 bonus. Now, that's still a lot of money, you know, to most of us today, but back in the 30s, 350 grand, he could have put that in the bank and retired a rich man, but he didn't. He went on to build some other dams, most notably the Shasta Dam in Northern California. Unfortunately, he died shortly thereafter. He's buried up there near Redding, California. And ironically, Frank Crowe was not originally an American. He was Canadian. He was born near Montreal, Canada. He emigrated here and got his engineering degree from the University of Maine. Now, I tell this story frequently to my groups, and a couple of weeks ago I had somebody at the back of the group raise her hand, and she said, you know, my sons graduated just recently from the University of Maine in engineering on Frank Crowe scholarships. So that was news to me, you know, they actually have a scholarship in this guy's name at his alma mater there. So he has quite a reputation, apparently, even so in the school he graduated from. So interesting individual. Any questions anybody might have? Okay, folks, we're going to head back to the elevator. And you have some options. You can go back to the visitor center. I think you probably want to do that because you haven't seen the exhibits up there and the overlook. So what you have to do, you'll be on top of the dams. Just, you know, reverse your course and go back down the way you started, okay? Down the stairs or the elevator. You got to go through that pesky security again. And then when you get in there, they'll direct you up to the visitor center, okay? So, any final thoughts here, anybody? Okay, let's get you on your way. Follow me back, please.